hallucinating here? Just what in the hell do you think you are doing?
I can't believe you!
I'm not reading. I'm just looking at the picture.
Welcome to the cold, hard truth on sports.
Welcome, everybody. It's another great week here on the Cold Hard Truth on Sports, here on the GoLong Media channel. Broadcasting you from Spreaker and Blog Talk Radio. And those are our two live broadcasts right now. If you want to stick on, we're doing a Facebook Live in the overtime segment. So from around 11 to midnight, we'll do Facebook Live because, you know, you don't look any better in the day to, as a radio person, to be on between 11 and midnight. That's the key time. That's a prime time that a radio face should be videotaped, is between 11 and midnight. Yeah. That's just when our overtime segment is. It's been eventful the last few weeks, so I appreciate all of you that have tuned in and commented and been a part of the overtime segment these past couple weeks that we've been doing it. It's been awesome. All right, we got a lot to get into tonight. We have a very special guest that we'll be having on here in 25 minutes or so to talk golf. We also are going to get into the NFL. There's more to get into with the Patriots, to get into with some of these holdouts, these contracts. Jerry Jones is pleading for, again, he's pleading or angling, and so he's setting up his negotiating angle, talking about the 18-game regular season, and I have a much better idea, and I'll share that a little later in the show. College football, more college football to preview. College football has started, but this weekend, this Saturday, is the first really big week of college football. So and we've had some great golf this past weekend. Tiger didn't ride in on a unicorn. I guess that's what people were looking for. I guess people just like to sell him short. And speaking of that, Tiger not selling him short. Bring on my co-host Kevin Crest. He is the author of the P.K. Frazier novel series, which you should just go to Amazon and buy them all. I think he'll take pre-orders for the fourth book if you really want to give him money ahead of time, as well as he's the editor for the Cold Hard Truth on Sports golf section, and one of the lead contributors for college football, as well as contributing to a plethora of other outlets as well. Kevin Crest. So I got you there, Kevin?
Oh, good evening.
There we go.
Yeah, you got it. You got that covered.
Esteemed Kevin Crest.
College football starts in earnest.
Did I miss that part? The esteemed Kevin Crest? Is it? I don't know if.
Yeah, I like it.
Are you esteemed?
I'll take whatever I can get. Okay,
we'll go with it.
But after 7 months of no college football, we had 3 games last weekend. Hawaii, Colorado State, which was very entertaining, by the way. And Colorado State took it on the chin from Hawaii. Wyoming played somebody, and UMass played somebody. It wasn't, a lot to look at, but it was football. There were guys hitting each other in the field. I mean, they were out there, throwing the ball and hitting each other. But this weekend, it gets pretty serious. Got Washington, Auburn. I mean, that to me is a fascinating ball game. I mean, it probably means more to Washington than it does to Auburn. But even so, those are that's the top pick in the Pac-12 against arguably the second or third best team in the SEC. That's a big ball game. I mean, that is a big ball game. People are talking about Notre Dame, Michigan. I don't put that on the same level. I mean, Washington and Auburn are both in the top 10 preseason. Michigan, Notre Dame are both. They're like 12 and 14 or 10 and 15. Depends on which poll you look at.
Yeah.
But that Washington Auburn game, yeah, right. I mean, but that Washington Auburn game has significant. Will have significant, I think, playoff implications if Washington does what we think they'll do in the Pac-12. I mean, and the problem that Washington has that Auburn doesn't have is that the conference schedule in the Pac-12 is not great for Washington. So if they were to lose this game, they'll have an uphill climb to get back into a playoff position. Auburn could actually lose this game and still, have a chance to claw their way back in. But I mean,
I wouldn't say that. Hold on. So much to have.
As usual, we disagree. That's
Let me explain this to music.
What's the drum? What's with the drum?
You don't like that? It's Autumn Thunder. It's football music.
Oh my gosh!
The way I see it is, no matter how you cut this pie, Auburn comes in as the third best slice in the pie in the SEC. There's no way that they have a chance to get into the playoffs. Even if they win the Iron Bowl, Alabama, that'll probably be their only loss of the season, and they find their way in every year. And then you got Georgia, and who are they going to play on that side? Nobody. Still. They're the favorites to get in there, and let's face it, Washington is the cream of the crop, or the cream on the coffee rather, up in Washington. That is the difference in that division. They can lose to Auburn. It'll look bad to losing to the third best team in the SEC. However, they do have a tough schedule. If they can overcome that tough schedule, and this is the only loss on their record, I mean, that is a quality loss. And we have to look at quality losses. So, sorry to disappoint you there, Kevin.
Yeah, but is the Pac-12 good enough as a whole for Washington to lose to Auburn, run the table, and still get to the playoffs? I mean that's my question. I mean, I'm not sure about that. I mean,
if they win the conference,
isn't all that great. I mean,
but we're not.
So they lost.
Do they have to be? I mean, that's the big question: is how tough does the Pac-12 have to be? I don't think it has to be that tough. I think we're going to see Oregon is going to do decent this year. They're not going to wow people, but they'll do decent. They'll show up. Stanford will show up like Stanford always does. Like their running back is a Heisman favorite. I mean, they're ranked 13th right now, 13th in both the polls. So they're going to fight. Or are we going to just say UCLA? They've had talent for years. Moore just hasn't been able to get him over the hump. Jim Kelly seems to be do a pretty good job of taking teams and making them win pretty quickly. We
talked about this last week. I mean, I still have Stanford putting the Pac-12, which means they will beat Washington. I mean, if my scenario holds true. If Washington beats Auburn in Atlanta, by the way, and this is a quasi-home game for Auburn, right? I mean, it's 90 miles. It's 90 miles from the Auburn campus. Okay,
Yeah.
So Washington's traveling, right, 3,000 miles. Auburn's getting on a bus, right?
Exactly.
And going, right, 90 miles. And so this is all set up for, and as usual, the SEC teams, and I'm in SEC country, but they don't venture far out of their comfort zone, right? I mean,
they don't.
They don't, right? They don't set up non-conference games that are disadvantageous to them. I mean, they just don't, and they get away with it, which kind of pisses me off, to be honest with you.
Again, this comes back to my whole gripe of there needs to be a centralized. I mean, we saw this whole thing with Ohio State.
Yeah,
There needs to be some sort of centralized governing system on because the schools just basically run amok, and then they say, "Oh, we govern ourselves."
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, like, people say, "Oh, the NCAA has this power." Like I said for years and years and years, and I think people are starting to see now with the situation with Ohio State and Urban Meyer how little power and reach they have. You know?
Right. I agree with you on that. I mean, the whole scheduling issue within the college football, I totally agree with you. And you know that's one of my big bugaboos. Right? That one of my big mantras, one of the things I write about and I talk about a lot, is the major discrepancy between the schedules, right? And you look, I mean, listen, my school, Virginia Tech. The non-conference schedule of Virginia Tech this year is absurdly easy. It's James Madison, it's Old Dominion, it's East Carolina, which is down. I mean, it's obscenely bad, right? I mean, and you look at some other schools. I mean, we were talking about Wisconsin. Wisconsin actually probably has to go undefeated this year to get in the playoffs because their non-conference schedule is so bad. Now, Ohio State plays Tennessee. Michigan opens up against Notre Dame. So you got some Big Ten teams that are actually stepping out and playing some people. Wisconsin plays nobody. The SEC schools, it's embarrassing how bad their schedules are. Georgia plays like Austin Peay and, they do play Georgia Tech at the end of the season. But, you've got teams in the SEC that play nobody. I mean, Arkansas opens up against Eastern Illinois, which isn't even an FBS school. I mean, you've got these guys, at least the Big Ten, and I'm going to applaud the Big Ten here because the Big Ten has a rule now. They don't play any. They're not scheduling any additional FCS schools. So going forward, they're going to play all FBS schools, which I think is a good thing. Okay, because I don't think that if you're going to compete for a national championship in college football, you should be playing anybody other than FBS schools. And I think that should be a rule. Now, people argue, that's not fair to the FCS schools because they don't get the money they should be able to get, all that kind of stuff. But the FCS schools can play non-Power 5 schools and still make some money.
Exactly. I mean,
and so right?
it?
I mean, so to try to evaluate and know that, and here's the other thing that has to happen. The SEC and the ACC are the only two conferences left that aren't playing 9 conference games. You've got to play 9 conference games. And by the way, the Big 12, which is actually 10 teams, not 12, which is very confusing to, we're trying to teach our kids math and we say that the Big 12 has 10 teams. Anyway,
Not in Florida.
they play round robin.
They have a long version for short math in Florida. I don't.
Yeah, good. Yeah, good. And how do you do with that? Are you good with that? Is that something
No.
you excel at?
I wouldn't. I'm good with math.
Are your kids better than you at that?
No, well, no, they don't do that. I think they don't do it because they go to a charter school and they're like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. Yeah. So.
But I think all Power 5 conference schools should be playing 9 conference games. That would level the playing field. It would also limit the number of bad non-conference games you have. I mean, at the end of the day, you only have 3 non-conference games left. So there's some tweaking at that level that has to be done because the SEC says, "Oh, our schedules are so difficult in conference. We should get a pass on the non-conference." That's so much bull. That is just not even. That's not even. Doesn't pass muster with anybody except the rabid fans in the SEC. Because the Big 12, I mean, you can say what you can about them. I mean, you can say what you want about them, about, they're passing. But they all play each other, right? So Oklahoma doesn't get to dodge Texas. And Oklahoma State doesn't get to dodge TCU. They all play each other. In the SEC or the ACC or the Pac-12 or the Big Ten, your schedule might just line up that you don't have to play the best team from the other half of the league. Like this year, my team, Virginia Tech, doesn't play Clemson. Now, we do play Florida State. We don't play Clemson. In the Pac-12, oh, wow. USC doesn't play Washington this year. Oh, wow, what a break, right? So, you don't get, so you can say, well, the Big 12 is, but at least they play everybody. I mean, you've got to run through the whole gauntlet. Now, you do get Kansas, and you do get to play, the weaker team, but Oklahoma has to play the entire league. They don't get to dodge West Virginia. They don't get to dodge Texas. They don't get to dodge, Oklahoma State. They got to play every team. And even in the Big Ten, and that's your league, you get to dodge. Now the Big Ten does play 9 conference games, so it's kind of hard. You can't dodge everybody because that league is so strong. I think it's the strongest league in the country. Top to bottom. I mean, it's a very strong league, top to bottom. Right? I mean, you can't argue that. It's a very strong league, top to bottom. So, if you're in the West, which is where your Nebraska team is, you can't dodge Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, and Penn State because you got to play at least two of those teams, right? So, I think that's a good deal. But the ACC with only 8 games and the SEC with only 8 conference games, you can benefit from a very, very favorable conference schedule. And if you don't have a really tough non-conference schedule, like I've got Virginia Tech this season, my team. They're ranked
Alabama
20th
schedule Birmingham Community College.
Oh,
second to last.
Alabama. Now, Nick Saban would point to that they've got Louisville. Alabama opens up against Louisville, but Louisville's diminished. They lost to Lamar Jackson. They don't have the same team, but the rest of Alabama's non-conference schedule is abysmal. I mean, it's nobody. I think they play. They might even play Furman or something just ridiculous like that. I'm not sure, but it's ridiculous.
I've never.
And all the SEC schools are like that.
And again, what heats me up really about the schedules the most, like for example, Alabama's, is they have rewarded out. That's why I said last year, on principle alone, they lost towards the end of the year. They weren't a conference champion. Do I agree they were worthy of being in the Final Four teams? Absolutely. But I think that was the perfect and best opportunity for the committee to say, if you're not going to have, 9 conference games, if you're not going to have quality out-of-conference opponents, if you're going to be scheduling like this year, who is that? Citadel. They're playing Citadel.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Citadel. Probably the basketball team. I'm guessing, because Citadel's a basketball school. I didn't even know they had football. I thought they had basketball and a marching band. That's it. I didn't even know they fielded a football team. They probably don't. So the second, or at least have some sort of guidelines where you have to keep those out-of-conference games within the first 3, or you can only have 2 in the first 3, and you have to have 1, somewhere in the last third of the season. I don't know. It kind of to shake things up, but there needs to be some sort of continuity behind it, and for them to schedule Citadel. Who else? They got Citadel. They got the Raging Cajuns on there. Again, another 7 team. Who else? Louisville, Arkansas State.
I totally agree with you. I mean, we're in agreement on that. It's that I think that we need to come to some, because if you're going to have, a national championship 4-team semifinal, it's difficult to evaluate when an Alabama and Auburn and Georgia, and I'm going to say those are the top 3 SEC teams. I mean, they all have a legitimate chance to be in the playoff this year, right? And you look at their non-conference schedules. Now Auburn's playing Washington. Okay, Georgia plays nobody. They play Georgia Tech, which is probably a 4th or 5th place team in the ACC. But Auburn does play the best team in the Pac-12 this year, and that's just kind of by luck. They've got that. Auburn plays. Alabama plays a diminished Louisville team. They're going to beat the crap out of them. We know that. And Georgia plays nobody until. And by the way, Georgia's game against Georgia Tech is over Thanksgiving week. It's the last game of the season, and so they won't have been tested outside the conference until Thanksgiving. And so I agree with you. I think there needs to be more about. I think every Power 5 conference team should schedule another Power 5 conference team in the non-conference. That's my feeling. Don't go with a group of 5 team, right? Don't say, let's play Middle Tennessee State, which is a group of 5 FBS team, and count that as a quality opponent. I don't buy that at all, right? And so I think that there should be some uniformity around that, and I think that would help us as fans. Number one, it would give us more really good games. Number one.
Oh, absolutely.
And number two, it would give us a much better. It would give the committee a much better barometer of how they could actually, compare the teams. As the season goes on. I mean, because Georgia, you're going to go, wow, they're really good. But they didn't play anybody until the last 2 weeks of the season, and they're already positioned. So it's unusual that you and I agree on something. We do agree on this, and I think there's 2 things that have to happen. Every conference has to play nine conference games, and every Power 5 team has to schedule a Power 5 opponent as in a non-conference schedule. And I think that would go a long way to solidifying the 4-team playoff. if you don't do that, then I think you got to expand the playoff because it's unfair. It's to put Alabama or Auburn or Georgia in the playoff when they play nobody in the non-conference, and to penalize the Pac-12 and the Big Ten and the Big 12 who play 9 conference games. Well, they got a tougher schedule. I mean, they just have a tougher schedule because they have to play 9 conference games against a Power 5 conference schedule, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
inherently more difficult.
It's
right?
just
it's unfair.
It's frustrating, to say the very least. It's just frustrating.
Yes.
It's more frustrating than the people that have subscribed to ESPN Plus and realized you're not really getting much more.
There is that. So has our guest chimed in yet, Matthew?
No, he has not.
Okay.
But I'm sure he's on his way. I hear he never misses a tee time. That was my golf joke. I don't have a lot of them. I mean, with the changes, with just the utter amount of changes at head coach this year, I just think it's tremendously interesting to sit back and look at how is Arizona going to be, with Sumlin? How is Arizona State going to be, with Herm? Nebraska got Scotty. It's just looking at, I mean, you've seen Mullen go to Florida. You've seen, Mississippi State. They end up with their new head coach, and they're ranked. It's funny that he leaves Mississippi State, who is ranked preseason, and Florida, who is not, to go to Florida, who is not. It's interesting, to say the least. Michigan, people put him, they're in the middle of the pack, and he's been there with us his fourth year there at Michigan, and he's under people's microscope. I don't think he's really under Michigan fans, maybe, microscope, and the media's microscope. I think getting rid of Jim Harbaugh at Michigan is the dumbest thing ever. Just let him keep going. He's going to actually win you a national title. I think he could win them a national title in the next 5 or 10 years or so. They'll win one at least. I mean, if they just follow the plan that, Oklahoma did with Stoops, I mean, they're going to win a lot of football games. They'll get a national title. They'll get close to some others. And I think that's kind of what we can expect out of Harbaugh in Michigan. Will he get fed up and leave? Maybe. If people keep acting, stupid about what their odd expectations of, and inconsistent expectations. But let me tell you, the one game I am really looking forward to is the FAU game. I want to see what the Owls do against Oklahoma. It's such an intriguing game to me. Because they got a second-year head coach at Oklahoma, second-year head coach at, not a second year, his second year as a head coach, Lane Kiffin, at Florida Atlantic. And again, they lost, 2 games last year? All season? Florida Atlantic? So, I think one of them was canceled.
One. I think one.
They had a canceled game, I know that.
Right.
So, I know a lot of people don't like Lane. They want him to do bad. They lost to Navy in his first game.
I'm not sure why
Wisconsin,
people are against Lane Kiffin. I do kind of get it because he's kind of an arrogant kind of guy, but he's a really good football coach. right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think anyway. I mean, he's been a success wherever he's been. I mean, as a football coach, and we're not talking about a thing that jeopardizes our well-being as a human race. It's just football. He's a football coach, and he does it pretty well, especially in the offensive side of the ball. And I think he's kind of, from our perspective, being on the reporting side of things, he's entertaining. He gives us a lot of content to talk about. I like Lane Kiffin, and he endured Nick Saban, and he delivered 2 national titles to Nick Saban on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
And a Heisman Trophy winner.
Pretty good thing. Yeah. So we get so caught up in this stuff. And I was watching one of the shows today. It was Dan Patrick or Rich Eisen show on Audience Network on DirecTV. We should get some play from them. You should reach out to them and get some little ad dollars for them.
Yeah.
But, Nick Saban's kind of cool because he kind of gets it, and it's just football, right? We're not talking about anything other than just football. It's not that big a deal. And I like it. Yeah, it's like I like Nick Saban. Now he makes a lot of money from it, and but I think he has it in perspective that it's just football. Like if I don't tell you who my starting quarterback is, the fate of mankind is not going to change if I don't tell you who I start, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and so that's what I like about Saban is it's like you guys are making a much bigger deal out of this than it really is. I'm just paid to put guys on the field and play a football game, and I think that's what I like about Saban because he has a very close awareness to what his value is in the space of the universe. Is they just pay me to bring guys on here and play college football, and that's what I do. And so you guys make way more of it than it really is, and I'm just going to play football. Right?
Yeah, and that's kind of being at the last 2 national championship games at Media Day, and hearing the questions people ask. It's kind of, you either have to pull all your hair out and leave and run away in frustration, or just kind of like, okay, whatever. I'll answer your question, or whatever, or kind of. We'll not make too much of it.
So we have a guest on?
We do.
Are we
We
ready,
do have a
Matthew?
guest. Yes, we are.
We are. So I know we're a little bit late, and we thank Jay for waiting. We welcome Jay Delsing, PGA Tour member and current Fox Sports golf analyst. He's the founder of the Jay Delsing Golf and honorary chairman of the First Tee of Greater St. Louis. How are you doing tonight, Jay?
Doing good, boys. I was just enjoying listening to you talk about Saban and how he just messes with the media. It's perfect.
It's wonderful.
And you remember the media.
I asked him on a question about kind of leading the question as he's he's upset with players. He's grumpy with players, and it kind of hit a soft spot for him. I feel, and he kind of turned around and was like, it's not that. It's that I just have really high expectations of them, and I want to make sure that they understand that, because there's more to it than just what I'm asking him to do. So it means so much more. So it seems like I'm a jerk all the time. It's not that. It's just that.
Kind of pretty much is.
Yeah, because I hear he's pretty fun.
He reminds me of a guy he just reminds me of a guy looking for an edge.
Yeah.
And he knows he needs to keep his edge. He knows he needs to keep this thing sharp. He knows that he's going to accomplish the things he wants to accomplish in a highly competitive environment. And he can't give anything away, and he doesn't give anything away.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jay, this is Kevin. So I want to go back 35 years for you. You were on a killer golf team. I mean, you were on a golf team with 5 or 6 future PGA Tour professionals. You had, if I'm not mistaken, Duffy Waldorf, Steve Pate, Tom Pernice Jr., Corey Pavin, and yourself. What was that like?
It was pretty cool. I mean, I'm just a kid that grew up playing with my mom's clubs at a little muni up in North St. Louis County, and I started playing well and winning some tournaments and got a scholarship out to UCLA, and all of a sudden I threw in with all these, Californians, and Pavin was college player of the year when I was a senior in high school. He was college player of the year as a sophomore, and man, we got out of that environment, Kevin, and it was just a blast. I mean, everybody loved to compete, and everybody loved to win, and everybody loved to have fun, and it was pretty cool. I'll tell you, one of the neatest things about our program is after, 4 or 5 weeks into the program, we got all summoned to Bel Air Country Club. We played Bel Air Country. We were fortunate to play Bel Air Country Club on Mondays and Fridays, which is such a treat, such a great track, and made us all better players.
Gosh!
But check this out. We got to listen to Coach John Wooden every 6 weeks for the first couple of years of the program. And, being 18 and 19, and being the guys that we were, being such Einsteins that we were, we knew everything. Towards the end, we were like, I can't believe we got to listen to Coach Wooden again. This is crazy. Let's just go out and play. But we laugh about that now, but gosh, what a treat to listen to this guy. And, little did we know who was standing in front of us and what some of his words were. Gosh, you want to talk about commanding a room and commanding a room. I mean, John Wooden was speaking, you're just like, gosh, I don't know why, but I've got to listen to this guy. We were all, you got to remember, we were a bunch of goofballs. We were all in that 18 to 22 year, age group, and we thought we knew everything, and we were getting pretty good and probably a little more full of ourselves than we should have been. But some of us are more full of ourselves now than we were then. But, anyway. And then listening to John Wooden talk, gosh, I mean, it was just really awesome. Really awesome.
Well, I'm of an age with you. I graduated Virginia Tech in 1980, and I covered college baseball. I was a college baseball announcer at the time, and had the privilege to come in contact with a couple of guys you might remember, Franklin Stubbs and Sid Bream.
For sure.
And
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and you just kind of knew, and I'm sure you had had the same kind with Wooden and some of the guys. You saw them for the first time, and you went, those guys are going to be really good. Those guys are going to be really, really good. So you came on tour.
Wooden, sorry to interrupt, but you think about John Wooden. I had a poster as a kid. My brother and I lived in the little small house, and we lived in the basement. I had the 88 wins in a row poster on my wall with Wooden and Walton and the whole UCLA, crowd. And one of the things when I got to UCLA they talked about was how, they had the freshman and eligibility rule back in the day. Not once I was there, but back where, Jabbar and those guys were coming in, and the freshman team regularly beat the national championship team. They said because they just kept loading up every year and loading up. And I remember that, Kareem's team beat the national championship team, and they're like, man, we can't win. We got to be able to play. And I think it just became this winning environment that was just amazing.
So it's amazing to say that Kareem's team, Kareem was waiting to play. Like, we don't hear that
I know.
Guys like that are waiting to play. Is they're waiting for the draft. That's basically it is. And I don't know if we have enough natural research, because again, it had to be some sort of natural sort of research that's done that evolutionary stuff that to see if it was more beneficial for the guys to stay longer. I think it is. I'm a big proponent of the college basketball having the same kind of either the same thing like. I guess it's more so like baseball. I think that if you're going to go to college, you got to go, 2 years removed from high school. If you're going to go pro, you can go pro right away. But they can do that right now. Actually, if people want to go to the NBA straight out of high school, they can. But they have to stay a year in the NBA's D League or G League, whatever they're going to call it now. So they can. It's just they don't, because they get better training, better coaching, more swag, more money by going to a college and slumming it for a year or two, But yeah, it's amazing.
So Jay, you played. I checked this out today. You played 682 golf tournaments on the PGA Tour and what is now the Web.com Tour. You were the quintessential grinder. What was that like? I mean, what was your mentality back in the day of just
oh man,
going tournament?
I didn't look at myself like that on all account. I mean, I just looked at it. I had a privilege. I was living a dream. I mean, I could look at my daughters and look them in the eye and tell them that things actually, dreams do come true. And I mean, there's so much judgment about people, and all I knew is that I was trying to just become the best player I could become. I was trying to be the best player in the world. I was trying to figure out life. I was trying to figure out how to be married. I was trying to figure out how to be a dad. I was trying to figure out how the hell to get from the Reagan Airport to Congressional Country Club with no cell phone and no computer and, things like that. I mean, when you look back at the 80s, I mean, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have the internet. We were in cars with maps trying to figure out where in the hell we were going and what we were doing. And it was, there was a hell of a lot less money, but there was a hell of a lot more romantic notions about, gosh, this is pretty cool way to, try to figure out how to play professional golf, and if I could swap it, I might want to swap out today's money because there's so much more money. But I just had a blast doing what I was doing. I loved what I was doing. It was hard. I wasn't always very good at it. Sometimes I was awful. Other times I was, very competitive and really wasn't trying to assess a whole lot other than trying to improve and just kind of figure it out.
Yeah, I remember watching you back in the 80s. I wasn't covering golf at the time. I was just a fan. And I was living in Virginia, and I went to the golf tournaments. I think I sent you this in a message that I attended the golf tournaments at Anheuser-Busch in Williamsburg and the Greater Greensboro Open and some others. And those were the tournaments that you guys those weren't the premier events, but you were always there and you were always grinding it out. And I think you had a really good performance in a couple of those events. And so I just remember you as just being one of those guys that I'm watching and you're just grinding it. And it was amazing to me. And I play golf and I could never have played professional golf, but just what was that like? Just that week to week grind for you. And I'm saying this I'm really saying this as a compliment to you to stay with it. You stayed with it for 25 years, right?
Yeah, most people. You know what? It was something. You know, baseball was my first love. My dad was a professional baseball player. Played 10 years in the bigs, 20 years. Played in the 1949 World Series Yankees team that had his World Series ring. I'm a sports junkie. Baseball's my first love, always will be. I still read box scores, and I've followed the Cardinals and baseball in general religiously. But, man, I just wanted to be a professional athlete. I figured I'd be a professional baseball player, but there was not enough organized. The sport was not organized enough for me back in the day for me to keep playing. And I wanted to play golf because I could do it by myself. And I could play 54 holes a day. And I had a dream of trying to play a sport for a living. And I knew from a financial perspective, I needed to get a scholarship. And so those were my two, main objectives. And the scholarship was coming first. And so that's kind of what the way I was thinking. And, but other than that, there wasn't a whole hell of a lot of thought, man. I was a kid with a stick and a ball, and I just wanted to be Jack Nicklaus, and that's really all it was. And I mean, like I said before, there were some really great moments and some really not great moments. There were some really difficult times, but man, I loved it all. And the thing that I loved the most is it was just something I always dreamed of wanting to do, and I didn't ever think that I wouldn't do it. I, obviously had a hell of a lot higher aspirations that I'd win major tournaments and be leading money winner and things like that. And unfortunately that didn't happen. But I can tell you that for, a good majority of the time, I didn't consider myself as a grinder. I don't even think the word grinding makes sense. And I get where you're coming from that, Kev, because you're grinding out, you're churning away. You're trying to make this work. You're trying to figure it out. You're not one of the top players. But the term grinding has got such a negative connotation for me because it grinds something. You're sticking something hard into something else that's hard, and you're beating the hell out of it until it becomes almost nothing. And when I hear guys talk about grinding, I know what they mean, but I think that means that they're just not giving up. They're not giving up. They're not giving in. They're going to stay in there with it, and they're going to persevere, and they are going to endure, and they are going to try to keep figuring it out. And as you guys could probably attest in your life, man alive, you're going to learn so much more in your valleys than you do in your peaks. You learn so much more about yourself when anybody can be a nice guy when it's blue skies and they're shooting 65s. It's when you miss 6 cuts in a row and you're worried about money and you're worried about, how am I going to keep doing this and should I keep doing this and how am I going to feed my kids and what's going to happen? I mean, that's when the rubber meets the road. You find out what kind of person you are.
Well, you mentioned that. It's interesting. Your best year, money-wise, was 1999. You made almost $500,000 in 1999. And you had a really rough start to that year. You missed like the first 6 or 8 cuts of that year. And
right.
And that was your best
Absolutely.
year. I mean that to me, when I say grinder, to me, that's a compliment because that means you're like you just said, you're sticking to it. You're staying at your craft, or you're ready. And so that year, you generally it's interesting. In the 10 years prior to that year, the number of cuts you made in 1999 was the least number of cuts you made, and you made 3 to 4 times the amount of money you'd made in the last 10 years. That to me is an interesting statistic because you stuck with it.
Well, a lot goes into that, Kevin. You got to remember, Tiger Woods came on the scene, and purses started going up. So back in 1985, I had 2 top 10 finishes, and they happened to be the smallest events on tour. You ready for this? The total purses in those 2 events was $150,000 total purse. So I got 2 top 10 finishes and didn't make $15,000 total. But here's something that's really cool, and I think your listeners might appreciate this. Every professional golfer on the PGA Tour makes 80% of his money in 6 tournaments. And so what it really turns out to, guys, is when you have your foot on the gas and you're playing well, you cannot be scared, and you have to keep going. You have to keep making birdies, because you might have a solo third finish, and it's going to take you 6 T15s to equal the same amount of money that you make for that solo third finish. So the more you head up that leaderboard, you have really got to keep your foot down, and you got to keep making birdies. And so I remember. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was watching this, the playoffs, and I'll let you go on because I'm fascinated by this, because we're in that foot on the pedal period in the PGA Tour schedule. But go on. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead. I love it.
I mean, one of the hardest things, you guys, is to know when putts are going to start going in, because when you play on tour and you don't make any putts, you might as well not play. Because I mean, you look at the way Tiger played, last week, and what did I saw one publication call it drive for show and putt like a schmo. And that's kind of, if there was ever anything that you'd never say about Tiger, is it's never putt like a schmo. But, he's gone through a lot of different things. And if your putts aren't going in, you can't play well enough to make a bunch of money. You can't have, it's just one of those things. And one of the hardest things about for playing professional golf is trying to peak when you need it. You play a long year. Our year's probably longer than anybody else's year. There's 40 some odd tournaments on the PGA Tour, and you're trying to, figure all that out. And if you think about making all of your money in 6 events, that's pretty crazy. And you just, and the thing you got to remember is we never know when the hell those 6 events are coming.
Well, and now that it's a wraparound schedule, so I mean, there's no off season, right? It's like 2 or 3 weeks and you're back at it, right? I mean, for these guys,
right.
I mean, not for you. You're past that. So you brought up Tiger, the Tiger effect, and you were in that. You benefited a little bit of that from the Tiger effect on the purses. I mean, your biggest year was 1999. Between the 2 tours, you played a little bit of was then a nationwide, now the web.com tour. You won $442,000, which was over twice as much as or close to twice as much as you'd won on any other year on tour. Was that because of the increase in the purses? If you look at my Tiger effect,
because look at my position on the money list in 1992. I finished like 49th or 50th or somewhere in that ballpark on the money list. So that's what you really have to go to. You have to look at the positions on the money list and see where they rank, and then get an idea if you want to compare apples to apples. It doesn't really matter. I couldn't give a damn. I know that out there, I obviously wish I'd won some major tournaments and things like that. But, you don't know what you're going to get. I grew up in a little bitty house and played municipal golf, and if someone was going to put something in front of me and say I was going to get to play 25 years of golf on the PGA Tour and I was going to do this and it was going to look like that, I mean, I would have signed it with blood.
Wow. That's awesome. So are you still in touch with the guys that you played with in college? I mean, I was in Branson, Missouri, early this season. I ran into Corey Pavin in an elevator, and because I cover golf,
pretty scary guy, right?
I talked to
5'7" and weighed 130 pounds.
Now I'm 5'8" and weigh 165 pounds, and so I felt like he's the only guy on the planet that I could actually intimidate. But he's a cool dude, and so I talked to him. But do you keep in touch with those guys? I mean, Duffy and all those guys.
I do a little bit. Yeah, I do a little bit. David and I were close for a while, and then we, some life things happen, and so we don't touch base much anymore. Yeah. But I still see Pater a little bit. See Pate, the human volcano, one of the biggest characters you'll ever meet in your whole life, and Duffy is terrific and a character in his own right. And Tom Pernice grew up in Kansas City, about 200-300 miles away from me, and so. Whenever I see these guys, it's always fun to get together. It really is.
So
I remember I was at I was covering a tournament in Atlanta, and there was a rain delay, and Steve Pate came into the bar, not the players area, the bar in the clubhouse, and brought everybody around.
Kevin, let me interrupt you. When we finished playing back then, we didn't have like yoga instructors and chefs and pilots and entourages. We didn't even go to the range. We all went to the bar. That's what was just kind of pretty common. It wasn't any big deal. It wasn't, we didn't even think of ourselves as PGA Tour players, but the rounds were over. We were just people.
Pre-Catherine Roberts.
Right, so I ran to Steve Pate. I was at the Insperity Invitational in Houston covering that in March. And I ran into Steve Pate after the round, and I told him about that particular instance, and he remembered it. I was like, oh, yeah, that was a rain delay. There was thunder, lightning. He said, I just wanted a beer. And so I just went and got a beer, and everybody else got a beer. So that was Steve Pate. So, and he's still active. I mean, he's still playing. Right? He's still playing on the PGA Tour Champions. Yeah. And you've been in and out of that. I mean, a little bit. You tried to qualify a little bit. I think you were in and out of that. But now you've got the Fox Sports things going. And I actually had a chance to. I ran into Julie Inkster a few weeks ago.
That woman. And gosh, is she a terrific human being?
She really is. So I was I had a chance to sit down and talk with her for a little while, and I said, so how'd you end up at Fox Sports? And she gave me her story. So I'm going to ask you the same thing. How'd you end up at Fox Sports with that great crew down?
Joe Buck. Yeah, Joe Buck has been a longtime friend of mine, and he said to me, "Hey, we're going to do some golf. You want to call golf?" And I said,
the St. Louis connection. I got you. Okay.
Yeah, we going over to your house, and we go, what are we talking about here? And he's like, no, we're going to buy this, this USGA franchise, and and I said, God, I would love to do that, and so that's kind of how I got started, and I do some stuff for PGA Tour Live now, and really, really enjoy it. It's a little crazy because you don't have much of a schedule, and Fox only has USGA events, but it's still really fun. I've done the last 4 U.S. Opens, and I've got to tell you, it's just thrilling to watch the best players in the world do anything. I mean, whether regardless of what sport you're talking about, whether you're talking about hoops or hockey or any of that, and it's just thrilling to watch these guys go about it and watch the way the game is morphed and to watch the way they play the game. I mean, we just had the 100th anniversary of the PGA Championship here in St. Louis, and Tiger just put on a show, only to be outdone by Brooks Koepka, who just had ice water in his veins and came down and just annihilated the golf course. And man, it was just a great show, and it was great for our city, and our city needed some positive imagery and some boost, and the corporate citizens here in St. Louis just were fantastic. It was just a home run for us.
And you know what? And I know Matthew has a question, because I'm going to let him ask it, because I won't, but he will. But I'm going to say, the PGA of America, the setup of that golf course at Belle Reve was fantastic. I mean, were you there? Were you there as a spectator?
I have a company that I do. I've done corporate entertainment and hospitality since 1990, and I did it while I was playing. And so I took some corporations out there, did some fun entertainment, hospitality. It was awesome.
Jay Delsing Golf, right? That's just what you do, right? That's your hospitality company.
Golf. It's just a kind of a boutique-y sort of little shop that I have that does some anything golf related for companies, organizations, anything. It's I enjoy it a lot.
That's awesome, because I thought that tournament, and we'll get to Tiger in a second. I mean, can you stay with us a little bit longer? I know we said a half an hour, but this is awesome. The way that the PGA of America set up that golf course, I thought was just fantastic. I mean, they didn't tweak it. They didn't try to manipulate it. And I know
You mean like
Matthew's
the
going to
USGA
spot here in a
likes
second.
to?
Well, here you go, Matthew. You go.
Well,
Give your question.
let me set up my question a little better than just, dry heaving it out, Kevin.
I know where you're going, Matthew, and I've never met you before. Go ahead.
It's all that watching baseball. That's what it is. Watching all that baseball. You know what pitch is coming. So, and many other sports that we see, changing rules or changing the play or looking at how the field is drawn out, from the players that are on it to the grass they play on, has always been something as somewhat of a benefactor, because it gets more ratings or people will see more scoring. But it seems for some reason there's this criticism with the USGA, and I'll use Kevin's word, he said, is manipulating. They're manipulating the scoring through the way that they're adjusting holes and from day to day. What is your reaction to that? How do you feel not only playing, but also calling the matches?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't like it at all. I mean, I can tell you this right now. The game's hard enough. They don't need to do that. They don't need to do any of that. They don't need to be concerned about that. They're in my opinion, they're just misguided a bit, Put the thing out there. Look, the best players in the world are going to handle it. Some guys are going to handle it, some guys aren't. And the guys that handle it, take your hat off to them and congratulate them. And if they handle it well enough and you get to hand them the first place medal, then do it. But leave it alone and quit trying to, it's just this insidious little, something that they're trying to do that just they can't pull off. And unfortunately, there's some part of it that has to be out of touch from their chair, because they keep making these goofy things happen at our National Open. Dustin Johnson at Oakmont, that nearly became the laughingstock of the golf world. Had they not gotten a hold of that before the end of that round and not assessed, and they hadn't, assessed the penalty. And then, we were at Chambers Bay, and, the golf course was just really not ready for us. And then Erin Hills was another, just a non-traditional U.S. Open type course. I don't mind the non-traditional U.S. Open type courses, but if you're going to talk about it, you've got to talk about it in real terms and call it what it is. It's not the same thing as Oakmont. It's not the same thing as Shinnecock. These are bastions in our sport that need to be recognized as such, and they host this championship in a different manner than Erin Hills is going to. And look, as long as you're okay with it, who cares? But don't say what it isn't. It's not. It's not the same thing. It's not the same. And just come on, just personally, I wish the USGA would just focus more on growing the game and set the golf courses, choose the golf courses that they do, choose maybe a little wiser, and just let the course speak for itself. Sometimes you get the golf courses, guys, and because of the weather and stuff, they're playing easy. They might have had a boatload of rain, and the greens might be soft. They might not have any wind, and they're one of those courses that was wind determinant, and on how hard the golf course is going to play. You can't control that. But don't try sticking a flag stick on the side of a VW Volkswagen and ask somebody to hit a 5-iron into that shot. I mean, this is how hard the game is. I'll just tell you right now. Here's how hard the game is. And think about this, because I know you all watch. Brooks Koepka, who's kicking everybody's ass and going to win the second U.S. Open in consecutive order, the first time since Curtis did it in the late 80s. He gets up on 18. It's a beautiful drive, 320 yards right down the middle. He's got a 2-stroke lead. He's got a very accessible flag stick. And he misses his line by 35 yards. Not 35 feet, 35 yards. That's like 100-plus feet, boys, with a 6-iron from the middle of the fairway. And this is a guy that's playing better than anybody else. That's how hard this game is. That's all you need to know. You don't need to know one other thing.
Yep.
You don't need to be sticking flag sticks in bunkers. You don't need the clown's noses. You don't need any of that stuff. put the thing out there, let it go. Just, you know what? You know what's cool? When I was at UCLA, I had the pleasure of going to the Fabulous Forum and watching Pat Riley become one of the best coaches in NBA history. You know what he did? Rolled the ball out there. Give it to Magic, give it to Kareem, give it to James Worthy, give it to Norm Nixon, give it to Byron Scott, and look like a genius.
Yeah, just roll the ball out. So the last
This is what you do. Roll the ball out. Hey, guys, ring the bell, start the tournament, and let it go. Let it play out.
Yeah, I think the USGA should let the PGA Tour set up their courses, because the last 2 weeks they've been at two iconic golf courses, right? They were at Sedgefield for the Wyndham, and this past week they were at, oh my gosh, a miraculous golf course up in New Jersey. And
Ridgeway, yeah.
Those Ridgeway, the scores were low, but the golf was fantastic, and the drama on those two tournaments. Now, if CT Pan didn't hit the ball out of bounds at Sedgefield, it might have been a different story. But you know, you got two great champions.
But that's part of the drama.
That's right. You got Snedeker winning. You got, and so it's amazing. I don't care if it's 30 under or 8 under or 4 over. As a golf fan and as players, you're all playing the same course. It doesn't really matter what the score is, in my estimation. And to Matthew's point, the USGA now. I know you're and you were pretty vocal right then, given the fact that you're on the Fox Sports team. But I'm going to go a different route. I'm going to go the broadcast route for a moment. So you've been at Fox Sports with their golf now for 3 or 4 years, and they've had growing pains. The production itself has been has been difficult.
Well, we started off with an unplayable lie, trying to do the stuff we did at Chambers Bay was just brutal, because the golf course looked like a Triscuit.
Yeah.
You couldn't find the ball.
It was horrible.
You couldn't foul the ball.
Yeah.
None of us had played there more than once. And, you know, you're just not sure how this thing's going to play. And you know, Fox has a lot of it, you know, wanted to lead with a lot of innovation and things like that. And we're like, man, we can't even do that, you know? So I think that to answer your question, Kevin, I think the team is coming into its own now. You know, we've gotten rid of the 3 voices in the booth. I think that's going to be a good thing. I think Bucky and Zing are going to make a really good combination. Paul Azinger is a treat.
Listen, Zinger's great, and I went to high school with Curtis Strange, by the way. So I'm a big, Curtis Strange. I caddied for Curtis Strange in high school. You guys have now gotten a first class group, and I was at the U.S. Open at Shoal Creek, U.S. Women's Open at Shoal Creek. I thought from a broadcast perspective, that was one of the best broadcasts you guys did. I mean,
guys, I got to tell you, the Women's Open is a tough call, because just in the pronunciations. I mean, we're in pronunciation for 2 hours trying to do this, respectfully. And
they don't give you the media guides like they do in hockey.
Taiwan or Thailand. It's tough. It's just
the
tough.
Thai players with 7 syllables. I mean, but you guys,
in 2 letters.
I think actually, from my perspective, and Matthew and I have been talking about this for the last 3 or 4 years. I think that might have been actually a breakthrough production for the Fox team at the U.S. Women's Open at Shoal Creek. Now, number one, Shoal Creek's a fantastic. You were there, right? You were on the ground, right?
It's a great venue. I was not at Shoal Creek this year, but I do know what you're talking about. And the one good thing I have to tell you, we do have Mark Loomis as our producer, and Loomy is a real pro, and he is. I think part of the challenge for Loomy is to try to figure out how to assemble a team together. You know, that A's got chemistry, that B, gets along and figures all this stuff out. And I think, we're right at the point where some of the stuff is starting to come together.
Yeah, and I think part of it too is, from my perspective, and is you guys, the Fox team is still learning how to sequence the events of the shots, right? Because my biggest complaint early on with Fox was they'd show a guy hit the ball into an unplayable situation 30 feet from the green in deep rough, and they wouldn't show the shot. They it's like, what happened? Right? They all of a sudden you see, he's putting out for bogey, and you're going, what the hell happened there? Where was that? So, right? So you seem to be getting at, because that was the part of the production, because the other networks have been at this for a long time. I mean, the bloodline from Frank Shirkanian and those guys down in CBS and the NBC group and even the ABC.
Tommy Roy and that group at NBC has been together for a long time. And I think you're solely right, Kevin. I mean, I think all in all, I think Joe Buck is fantastic and can call anything. And I mean, he's even had some struggles, with the golf. But it's just the whole cohesiveness and the whole. So I think that they're really coming together, and I think it's just going to be, better and better and better each year.
Well, the team they've assembled now with you and Curtis and Julie and Curtis and and listen. Joe,
are you married to Curtis?
Huh? What's that?
I'm just kidding. You said Curtis twice, so I was just giving you trouble.
Well, Joe Buck would call a street ball game in the streets of wherever, right? I mean, the guy would call anything. He's a consummate professional of what he does, and he brings that. But he didn't bring. There's a nuance to the golf that he had to learn. I think he's getting it. Right? I get that. He's learning it, and I think you guys are getting a lot better, especially with Paul Azinger. When ABC had Paul Azinger and Nick Faldo in the booth and then had Curtis. They've just kind of brought the band back together, and and Julie's great, because who's gonna argue with Julie Inkster? I mean, she's
a great girl. Love her, and it's really a fun.
Oh my God,
fun team, guys.
I loved my conversation with her, and it was so funny because I asked her, because she was actually playing the event here in Northwest Arkansas, where I live. At age 58 or whatever she is, 59, and I had turned 60 the Sunday before. And I told her, I said, I just turned 60, and her husband's behind her, and he goes, at least she's a year and a half behind you, because she was turning 59 the next Sunday. And it was just a great interchange, and I had several minutes to talk to her, and she was fantastic. I said, why do you still play? And she says to me, well, the golf ball doesn't know my age. That was her response to me. She, and by the way, the next day she went out and shot 65 in that tournament.
That's true.
It was amazing. So her, you've worked with her. So the whole Fox thing, I was not for the USGA going with Fox. I think it was a money play. So I think you guys are kind of getting together. And so, now I'm going to switch gears a second on you. So you're the honorary chairman for the first tee of the Greater St. Louis. What's that mean to you?
Oh my gosh! Well, it was just a way of me trying to give back, to the community and the golf community, the St. Louis community, and just try to show appreciation for the game that's been so great for me and my family.
And so, I love the first tee. I think they've done great things. And so, what is that? What have you seen from I guess, the evidence of that in that community? Do you have any examples?
Oh my gosh!
Some people that's really done some great things.
Yeah, we've almost reached 40,000 people, 40,000 kids a year, and what it's not an easy thing to measure when you're trying to measure your successes there. But what's neat is when you have a young man or a young lady come back to you and speak at one of your fundraisers and talk about how important the first tee was when she was growing up and how it kept her out of trouble or it helped her with the X, Y, or Z going to high school and how she loved the discipline of the game and things like that. I mean, those are the things that are so gratifying, that make you feel terrific about what you're trying to do.
Because the first tee isn't all. It's not just about golf, right? I mean, this is about a life.
No, it's about It's about 9 core values: honesty, integrity, sportsmanship, judgment, things like that. I mean, you're basically using the foundation of golf and what the game's about, and trying to put it into kids' lives and trying to just help them make, just try to give kids a different choice. People look at the inner city kids and go, "What are you talking about golf?" Look, it's just another option. Maybe you don't need to be the next Tiger Woods, but maybe you want to try this game. Maybe it's going to be fun. Maybe, there's something about it that interests you, and you just never know.
Well, so let me get back to golf just a moment. You mentioned Tiger. So, do you think Jim Furyk, who is one of your guys, one of your contemporaries, is going to pick Tiger for the Ryder Cup?
Yeah, it's really going to be hard for him not to. I mean, I'd pick him. I would pick him for sure. I think Tiger's got a different attitude.
What about Phil?
Now. That's
Phil?
A tough one, and I'm a Phil fan. I just, Phil's 47. Gosh, man, he just hasn't played well. I think the whole debacle at Shinnecock with the goofy thing he did on the 13th green, I think it's just kind of knocked him down and beaten him up a little bit. And I got to tell you, I don't think I'd pick Phil right now. I think there's just too many other. Bryson DeChambeau's got to be on that team, and there's some other young kids. I mean, I think Phil would probably tell you, man, I'd love to play, but if you put a gun to my head, I'm not sure I deserve it.
Well, although Jim does have 2 more weeks to decide, so Phil could play his way back on. So I think I agree with you. So DeChambeau's probably a lock. He was ninth. He was ninth to begin with, so he's probably a lock. Right. Tiger's a lock. Yeah. So, who are your 2 picks? Just looking at it, the right now, who would you think? Who would you think might be?
Oh my gosh, I have not seen an updated list in like the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
Have you got a list here? Because I will tell you, boy, there's just a bunch of players that are young and hungry, and Kevin Kistner's not on that list, I bet, but he's he's probably
he is. I mean, I would go. Okay, I'll give you some names. Tony Finau, who finished third last week.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Billy Horschel, Kevin Kistner. You got veterans like Matt Kuchar and some other guys like that. So, so I was just. I mean, I'm not putting on a spot. I'm just. You're.
No. You can put me on the spot all you want. This is like herding cats. I mean, when you start thinking about both, the way that I would approach this team is from a global, a bigger perspective. Because you've got Fowler that's a lock that's already on. You've got Spieth. Mm-hmm. You've got Thomas. You've got Dustin Johnson. You've got Koepka. So I'd start thinking about who I want to mix and match with these players. That's what I'm going to start thinking about, personalities, and I'm going to start thinking about, because when you go from probably 10 through, almost 20, or even maybe a few places down below 20, man, it's a pair of sixes. You got to get guys that are playing well. That's the other thing. One of the things that Phil had all those great tournaments early in the year and then wins the World Golf Championship in Mexico City, and he hasn't had a top 10 since May. He's a Hall of Famer, and you never put anything by a guy with Phil's talent and game and moxie. But man, that's a long way to go without putting together a good tournament.
not to question, he's a future Ryder Cup captain. So you've got, you've got all that stuff to deal with. So no, I just wanted to, because the top 8, and I think you got to put DeChambeau and Tiger in the mix. Those top 10, that's a really formidable Ryder Cup team. The European team is okay, but man, those top 10 are and Tiger's playing well. He's not. He's making cuts and making lots of birdies, except for last week. But I just want to get your thought. It was interesting. So, man, it was great having you on, Jay. It's awesome to talk to you. And so, are you playing anymore?
I play a little bit, Kevin. I had back surgery when I turned 50, so I lost pretty much three of the most important years of my Champions Tour, PGA Tour Champions career. So I still play a little bit. I go out a couple times a week, and then I play with my business and stuff. But I may try to qualify for a couple events here and there, maybe a senior U.S. Open or something. But for the most part, not much. I'm struggling with some of my physically with just some this is what it looks like when you become 57. Stuff starts falling down and all heads down to the floor and to the middle, and it all, doesn't look good, doesn't feel good. It's just not easy.
Hey, I'm 60. I got you, brother. So, we'll let you go, and I hopefully I will catch up with you when I'm at an event that you're at, when I'm covering some golf. I'll look you up, and we'll catch up.
I look forward to it. Thanks for having me on, guys.
It's been great, Jay.
Okay, man. Thank you very much. Okay.
Wow.
That was a good interview, man.
It was an amazing interview.
Oh, yes.
I like Jay. He does not, what do they say, beat around the bush. I like that. I was like, I don't think we've had many. I don't think we've had many guests that actually kind of beat around the bush. I try to make it a point to ask a pretty tough question.
No, Lee Steinberg didn't beat around the bush. And Mike Carey did. We've got some good guys out there. So we'll try to get some more of those.
Oh, we will. We definitely will. Hey, I wanted to get your take on this. I didn't. We had him here for like ever on, but I'm going to get your take on this. How do you feel now? It seems the media all of a sudden has found it. I believe it's a New York Times writer. That it's within their nature to go ahead and fish for political opinions from golfers, particularly Tiger Woods, the latest of it. Obviously, before Donald Trump was president, a lot of people that were famous or at whatever they did had dinner with him, or kind of a golfer. I don't know. I know the Open, the Banco Popular Open in Puerto Rico is played at the Trump International Golf Course at Cocoa Beach in Puerto Rico. Beautiful, by the way. Beautiful place. You can't really go bad anywhere in Puerto Rico, but still, nonetheless, beautiful place. And kind of nailed him down, tries to nail him down on, what is his feelings about Trump. I mean, what do you feel about the appropriateness of fishing for political opinions from athletes in a situation where the athlete isn't trying to make political stands?
I think it's inappropriate. I think we just got to separate them. I think it's ridiculous. I mean, this didn't. Okay, this didn't happen before Trump. Okay, I mean, it's like, why do we change the rules now that Donald Trump got elected president? I think it's inappropriate.
Because a lot of the people
this is sports.
that have a pen and a pad are that don't like him. That's a big part of it.
Well,
they really feel a certain sort of way.
Because the press traditionally leans toward the left, and they're all pissed off because somebody on the right won the election, and they weren't used to that for the last 8 years, and they're pissed off. Get over it. Your side lost. Treat people appropriately. Treat people with respect. I mean, all I'm saying is, why should you put a guy why should you put somebody on the hot spot for their political views when they're not a political person? They're just they're an athlete or an entertainer. I don't care what they think, right? I mean,
let alone that's
my perspective is that
Tiger's like the worst person. It's not that he's just not political. He's just not open at all. I mean, the most open Tiger Woods has been talking about his glutes not firing. I mean, do we want Tiger that open? I mean, that was more revealing than my glutes weren't firing. My glutes weren't firing off. Like that's probably the case, and it sounds really funny. And obviously, a lot of people sneer at that. I mean, it probably literally was a situation where he knows himself well enough what wasn't working with his body and his swing. That was probably the case, and that's probably what stuck in his head. That's why he struggled. But, I mean, it's just sometimes, again, like I said, last 2 national championship games, I mean, I've heard, I was talking with, I'm not going to tell who it was, I was talking with a defensive player for the Bucks this off season, and he just he if you go back and look at Hard Knocks, you don't see him anywhere. He really does his most to stay away from the media. He doesn't want to talk to the media because it and a lot of, I mean, and this kind of goes into the Tom Brady and Bill Belichick and what's going on right now with the Patriots. But a lot of athletes have no care in the world to talk to the media. Frankly, the media asks a lot of silly-ass questions a lot of the time, either because they don't know what to ask or because they have an editor or producer or something that wants a soundbite. And that's usually what it is. They want a quote or a soundbite, so they go fishing for it. But that's the thing, is like you have one little slip. I mean, with this 24-hour cycle and having sports radio so focused, especially on football, people, the media will hang on every inch of what you say, every syllable. A lot of people just don't care to put themselves in that sort of a situation. So, I mean, I completely appreciate his opinion. And again, that's part of the reason why I don't want to put him out there like that. But a lot of it's silly, He asked me, he's like, so do you like going to press conferences? I mean, I do, because I like being there, because as part of the media side, there's a fan side of it too. You like having that sort of an access, but you're not really learning a ton in a presser. I mean, it's either somebody asks a question that what more I just for me, I'm really trying to deep extract water, and a lot of times you just set a bucket out. You'll get water. You don't have to dig so deep. Just put a bucket out. It'll rain. You know. I don't know. Now,
totally agree. Totally agree.
This is a monumental night for us, Kevin.
Our interviews. Well, the interviews that we've had in our time together, Mike Carey and Lee Steinberg and some of the football players.
He has a great book, by the way.
Tonight,
Mike's book. People haven't gotten the book.
And Jay Delsing was just money tonight. Is you don't have to be like this guy with sharp teeth going after an interview. Just and it's interesting. I watched Dan Patrick's show, which Dan Patrick's good. I love Dan Patrick. Okay, Joe Buck and these guys that do.
He has a new series coming out.
And what I found from them is, yes, he does. Dan Patrick's going to do Undeniable. He's going to take Undeniable from Joe Buck. Is what he said once on his show was,
was it this week?
You don't get good answers unless you ask good questions.
Yeah. And
so, what I think we've done on our show with our interviews is I think we ask good questions. I mean, Jay Delsing was so engaged tonight. Wasn't that fantastic? I mean,
wonderful.
He was so engaged, and you only get a guest engaged when you ask them. I do a lot of research on our guests. I mean, I researched Jay Delsing tonight like you wouldn't even believe, right? I mean, I knew everything about Jay Delsing. You got that, right? I mean,
yeah.
I knew his pro record, his college record.
I read it off Wikipedia as you said it.
Yeah. So, and the guests will get that they're like, wow, you thought enough of me to research me and to understand what I'm about, so I could ask the questions that would elicit great responses. That was Jay Delsing. That was a fantastic interview we had tonight. He was, I mean. That guy was, and he, I think he took offense to my use of the word grinder, although I thought it was
and I think I know why. I was thinking about that, and I was reading some about him as you said that. He's actually he's an economics guy, and
yeah, I know, and I was an economics major myself, but he was the guy played 565 PGA Tour events.
That's crazy.
565 PGA Tour events. And another 117 in what is now the Web.com Tour. 682 professional events. That is amazing. I mean, that guy loved playing golf. I mean, he just loved playing golf. And he probably still does, but he's got physical limitations now.
Yeah.
He's got a little bit older. But that to me was that interview was to me the interaction with him. What a great interaction that was. We've got to promote the heck out of this because people want to hear this because he was fascinating. He was fascinating, at least from my perspective.
Make sure we cut. We'll cut that interview. We'll make sure we'll cut the interview. We'll podcast just the interview. So,
he committed to 30 minutes, by the way, and he went for what an hour and 15, or an hour and 5 or something like that.
Yeah, right around that.
He was awesome. What a great guy. I mean, he sounds like I can't wait to meet him. Because I'll run into him at an event because I get golf credentials and I'll cover something. He'll be there. I can't wait to meet him. It'll be fantastic because that was priceless stuff, man. That was just really good sports talk content. And I don't care what level you're talking about. That's up there against anything I watch. And so
now, how would you compare that sort of engagement with Tom Brady? Because lately, I mean, I think people have been getting on him because
you're going to get my rant now.
Well, people have been getting on Brady because I'm not going to say he's a dick, but he's dick-ish at times, and he will just walk the hell out on an interview, which is.
Well, I think it's the entire Patriot influence. Okay, so Tom Brady he might not make what he thinks he should make from the Patriots, but every penny he makes comes from people that watch the games and buy jerseys and buy tickets. And he has an obligation to those people to come forward and to at least be engaging and friendly and like he wants to be there. From my perspective, these people, and I'll put Bill Belichick in that realm. What they think they deserve that money just because they're who they are? No, people pay for them to have their income and their money, and they need to be more engaging. They need to do interviews. They need to be more forthcoming. They feel that they're entitled because of some whatever they have, but if people stop watching and stop going to games, they've got squat.
Yeah,
and they got to get that through their head. And to me, that's offensive because I watch golf and I watch tennis. I was watching tennis last night, U.S. Open tennis. Not one player came off that court and refused an interview. They all gave interviews. They hit balls up into the stands. They engage. They understand where their money's coming from. They understand who's paying their enormous salaries and games.
So here
Tom Brady didn't get it.
But the thing is, like, what are we getting out of a Tom Brady interview? I mean, consuming wise.
It doesn't matter, Matthew.
I mean, wouldn't you rather have a Gronkowski interview? I mean, I would.
I'm not disputing that, but the fact is that Tom Brady needs to be more appreciative of where his money's coming from. And it's not coming from his ability. It's coming from all of the ticket sales and media content, and he's got to play the game. I mean, it's an enormous amount of money.
His money comes from his image. That's really where it comes from. And people, I don't know if the ticket. Listen, and it kind of goes into one thing, and I'll touch more on this later in the show. We still got it, almost an hour and a half left. Where the money comes from, I mean, every team has to have 10 home games to really keep it going. And I know Jerry Jones kind of set up his pre-argument on that in an 18-game season. But Brady right now,
that's an aside.
His contract money he's playing for isn't all that important to him. That's why he keeps taking pay cuts and incentive-driven stuff. But again, that's why you see him focus on certain parts of his game, because those also are the areas that his contract pays him more money. And those aren't salary cap hit type stuff. But what I'd like to see from Brady is him not to be so fickle about Alex Guerrero. Because, I mean, I'm telling you, I've talked to people about Alex Guerrero, and they say this guy knows his stuff, and he's been able to help them out. So they have seen benefit from working with Alex Guerrero. Now, does everybody? I don't know. I don't over a long course. Yes, what Alex Guerrero does with the stretching, with working the muscles,
But the point I rant that I'm going to totally look at this. These guys have to understand, where their bread is buttered and who's paying these enormous salaries. These guys aren't exactly skilled at economic, a profession. All they do is play football. And it just so happens people like to watch football, and they pay to watch football, and the networks pay the teams to show football. But, they're nothing. I mean, seriously, football could go away tomorrow, and we would all be able to wake up in the morning and go to work. Right? And so they're self-indulgent. And their self-image is so overinflated. And Tom Brady's a great example. The fact that he shut down the interview yesterday offended me. It's like, dude, you don't get to do that. You don't get to do that. You're making a lot of money in a profession that is essentially, not particularly useful to society, and you're shutting me down on a question that, by the way, all of us want to know because Tom Brady's turning 41, but if Alex Guerrero is doing something that is not kosher in terms of chemicals, we need to know about it. And by the way, the Patriots have been on their, they've had a number of controversies around, Videogate and Deflategate and whatever. You need to come clean on this. And so for me, I'm like, you don't get a pass on this. And unfortunately, from what I've seen today, the media's giving it a pass.
Well,
he deserves no pass.
Let me say one thing though. So, as far as how teams run, so there really is no issue with Alex Guerrero in general, because the way the NFL operates today, all these guys have their own trainers in the off season. They have specialists that they work with in the off season and during the season. Some of them are more like game day staff. You'll have medical staff that come in that just work with certain players on game day preparation. You do have team staff that does the bulk of this stuff, but every team has a guy, not Alex Guerrero, what he is, the legend that he's become, but has a guy like that. Has a couple positions where they'll come in with independent players and they'll work with them. Or it's not strange. That's the other thing that kind of upsets me about him really knocking off the interview. I mean, because he can answer the question in a way that's like, hey, I don't. He can in words he can say without saying, I don't think that's an appropriate topic or appropriate to ask certain things a certain way. Say, hey, listen, I just really believe in his methodology and the training that we do. That's why we built TB12 around. I mean, it's not a tough answer. It's not. It's really not. So, like I said, him being fickle about a guy that is generally with every single team. 53 players plus your 10 guys on your practice squad. I mean, there's a couple different personal trainers that come there during the week for every team. It's not uncommon to have, specialists that come in for. I mean, they have guys that come in for special rituals and stuff because guys are superstitious. I mean, Joe Madden used to. He would try to clear people so much. He literally had a zoo. He would bring in zoo animals.
Patriot.
But it's the
Patriots.
So what?
Right? I mean, and these guys. But I'll go back. I'll relate it to and this is a toxic subject, but I'll relate it to Urban Meyer's lying at Big Ten media days. It's like, really? You're going to lie to me?
Yeah.
I mean, you think your $6 million salary comes because you?
I don't know
how it comes from people donating. No, it comes from people donating money to pay your salary. You don't get paid off anything but donations. And you have the audacity to lie at a media day?
Well, to get caught
and you have
lying.
the audacity?
And that's the thing. It's like, in that situation, I wonder if he was... obviously he lied. He admitted he lied. But I'm saying, how prepared was he to answer that question? Again...
Okay, Matthew. Let me speak. The guy makes $6 million as the CEO of a major sports franchise. He had a day and a half to prepare for that question. The guy's the most prepared college coach next to Nick Saban in the history of college football, and he can't answer the question? Come on.
I mean, I don't understand why he lied. He could have just dismissed the question, say, listen, I'm not up here to talk about any of that stuff.
He didn't.
I'm just saying, I don't understand why he lied. It was one of those things where he probably looked back and like, why did I do that? Like, why did I lie?
Pass?
You know?
He gets no... See,
I'm not giving him a pass.
He gets no pass.
I'm not giving him a pass.
Ohio State gave him a pass. He's in the facility for 3 weeks. He gets suspended, quote unquote, for 3 weeks.
Well, no.
He'll be on the field during the game.
No, he's literally out of the facility for like a week, and then he can't go to 3 games. But then he's in the facility. He can go to all the practices and stuff.
Right.
So it's not like he's suspended from games.
How is this a penalty? I mean, come on. And
this is like the manager getting sent to the dugout in the 3rd inning. Who cares? The bench coach got this.
Right. And the toughest game they have is TCU. Oh, come on.
I don't know, those Beavers.
He'll miss. I mean, come on.
What's the over/under on the Beavers?
Come on. Well, you know my disdain for Ohio State. It was in my books, by the way. They were a source of my disdain, even in my book. So basically, they give Urban Meyer a free pass for lying, not just once, for probably multiple times, and he's free to go because you know why? He's 73-8. That's why. And so when I listen to Tom Brady, I mean, I don't think Tom Brady's innocent of anything. He's probably using HGH. He's 41 years old.
Topical HGH, is that what you're saying? Are you saying he's using a topical HGH to repair damaged cells faster? Is that what you're saying?
He gives me no reason. He gives me no reason to put any credibility in anything he says.
Let me ask you this:
because he won't honestly answer. He won't honestly answer a question. Nor will Bill Belichick.
So why do we keep
answer any question?
They say if you do the same thing over and over, expecting different results, that's the definition of insanity. So why do we care to keep rolling Tom Brady out to ask him these questions that he either is not going to answer or he's going to have a hissy fit and walk away from? Like, what's the point? Like, right now, if somebody said, do you want to interview him? I would say, yes, I do. But
if I was the press, if I was a member of the press in Boston, right? I just wouldn't attend any, and I just would not attend anything. I'd go, I'm done. I'm not giving you any. In fact, I'm not writing anything about you at all. As far as I'm concerned, you're not here. And how would Robert Kraft feel about that? I would say, I'm not writing anything about you. If you win 45-7 on Sunday, you're not getting in my paper. I'm not writing anything about you because you're not playing the game.
But that's the thing is,
I'm just.
Unfortunately, that doesn't work with NFL because as far as how demographics and how the dentity of fan bases. Yeah, I know.
I'm not saying that's realistic, but from my mentality, the way I think is I'm going to go, screw you. I'm not giving you any press. I mean, if you don't answer my question, and I'm not asking unrealistic or really tough questions. I'm not asking you
90 seconds.
Did your wife sleep with another guy? I'm not asking. I'm asking relevant questions about the franchise that I'm paid to cover, and you won't answer them.
Yeah.
Then I'm not going to cover you anymore. Right?
Here's the thing.
My perspective is
about this interview. Yeah, I don't think the questions were necessarily out of line. I think
60 seconds,
and we're about a minute till overtime. So if you're listening on Blog Talk Radio, you have 1 minute. Just go download the Spreaker app and listen to the rest of the show live. But the thing is, I mean, I don't understand the importance of why he's asking. He said what changed with him not being on the team playing last year and this year. Like, why is that? Was that just communication back and forth? Was it a misunderstanding? What led to that? I mean, I don't understand why people care.
Right.
And I get that's kind of where Tom Brady's point is too. Like, why do you give a shit if my personal trainer's there? But the thing is, this guy is a business partner of his for TB12, which he's trying to, he wants to force feed out everybody's throat that this is how you are competitive at all the way. He's going to play to 45. So this is how he's doing it, and I'm just saying that now becomes a fair question to ask in the context that this is the TB12. You want to spoon feed us, your Brady show, your Brady propaganda, your reality show, but you don't want to give anything else, and that's the frustrating part that I think that you're really talking about as far as the media, goes. I mean, why? I mean, you want to do everything in your documentary, reality show series, but you don't give us anything else in the media. It's a bunch of bullshit. So
Right.
I understand the sentiment wholly, but at the same time,
I don't.
why do they want to? Why would you want to interview?
But they have to cover them because their audience, is
You know
watching.
what?
But if I
Give
was
Gronk
that,
more attention. Go
I would
talk
go
to Julian Edelman. Will
I
talk.
would go screw you.
Edelman will talk.
Well, they could find other, but my rant is more about the total way that these guys, they just don't get who's paying them, and they have this arrogance and this way that they just go, well, I can do whatever I want. No, you can't, and you shouldn't. So I look at other sports. I look at the golfers that come on and interview after their rounds, right? And they're very open and about it. And I look at the tennis players that get interviewed after their U.S. Open tennis matches, and they're open and they talk about it. And even the NBA, I mean, they interview the players after the game. They interview LeBron. They interview all these guys, right? And
LeBron has had his fair share of temper tantrums and walkaways too. So
yeah, but not many. But not many in the past. Not many.
Yeah, just like in the NBA Finals when he's losing. Yeah, just
I know, but
stuff like that.
Yeah, but I listen. If you lose the seventh game and you're pissed off and you walk off, I get that. But
yeah, he wants to have his HBO barbershop series and have all kinds of conversations.
They generally interview. Take my context, right?
Yeah, you'll get more out of LeBron than him.
They just shut it down. They just shut it down, and that's not fair because LeBron gets interviewed after every game, and he comes out and he gives you an interview. Okay,
for the most part.
And Tom Brady's an asshole. He's an asshole.
Yeah, maybe.
And and he should not get a pass. He should not get a pass for that. He should not get a pass for that. Because most of the guys in the league are not like that. And he should not get a pass. And I think it's disingenuous. It's like, oh, I'll take your money, but I won't give you the interview. And I think that's ridiculous. Because he makes a lot of money. And he should have to give an interview. Because even Nick Saban, listen, Nick Saban's interviews, as much of an asshole as he is during the interview, he gives a great interview. He does actually give an interview. He sits there for 15 minutes. He actually sits and gives the interview. It's weird and it's kind of, whatever, but he gives the interview. Give the interview. You get paid for this. You should give the interview. Anyway, that's my rant.
Now, Jerry Jones, he's been leading up to this
Lord.
18 game.
He's talking. Rant. You give me a rant on there.
He's been alluding to pushing towards 2 preseason games and an 18-game season. And I kind of get some of the point behind this. So the owners take the financial liability of making sure that they're fronting it for those teams. Yes, they make tons of money from it, but with every and they do have somewhat less liability in some sense because, again, the attrition in the NFL is a lot higher. But the NFLPA is trying to push to make the rosters larger, to make the practice squads larger. And the owners want to counter with 18 games because, like I was saying earlier, I mean, they need 10 home games really to be able to make sure everything runs and pay all these rosters and to pay the roster and everything. They really need those 10 home games to do that. So is it will 18 games help that? Yeah, it will, because 2 more meaningful games, and not to say that preseason are meaningless games, because they do have meaning, but the meaning for those is really to figure out how you're going to. Do you have a guy that's undrafted or a guy that you're trying out? Is he going to beat out a backup? Is he going to make a roster? You know, it's not guys that are your everyday guys. You know, those 2 extra preseason games and stuff, it's unnecessary for injury. Again, the injuries are fairly high in the preseason. However, most of those injuries and stuff happen to guys that don't end up making teams anyways. So you can kind of take that statistic with a grain of salt. But still, nonetheless, it's 2 games that are largely unnecessary. I would say after you've had their college career, you know, the Shrine Game, the Reese's Senior Bowl, all these various other games. You know, you've seen them in camp. You've had scouted them. You've seen all the tape in the world. If you can't figure out, after having a guy in a camp, in rookie minicamp and minicamps, OTAs, and then camp, if you can't figure out if that guy's going to make your roster, I mean, you know, I don't know what. I mean, everything is videotaped now from almost every angle. So if you're taping all these things, just go back and watch the tape. How does he work with what your system is? If you think that he has potential, he's your guy. Get him in there. And if you can't make your roster, then you try not to make a fuss about him. Keep him away from the media, and don't let it get out you really like him, and try to tuck him into your practice squad. So this way you can have him around if you need to pull him out. But again, another team can hire him off the practice squad. But still, nonetheless, you know, kind of keep him in. Try to keep him in house if you can. And by the way, for those, it is actually more advantageous for a player to go to the CFL and play and be a part of their active roster than to be on a practice squad. But NFL coaches are going to want them on the practice squad because it keeps them in-house, under control. That's what they're going to be looking for. So, you know, I don't envy the situation, but at the same time, you'd think that you'd be able to make some sort of evaluation. Like, I'm telling you, I mean, a lot of people talk crap about Nathan Peterman, but I think he's a legitimate NFL quarterback. And I said that when he was at Pitt, and I said that especially seeing him at the Shrine Game. And same thing with Cooper Rush. I thought they were both legitimate quarterbacks. I talked about then, and they're both in the capacity of either being a starter or backup, a 1 or 2 in the NFL. So, I mean, and I got 3 days with either of them, seeing them. I mean, it didn't take me a ton of time to figure out, yeah, this guy can play in the league. You know, sometimes you can tell, sometimes you can't. You know, well, and that's the thing is, like, once a guy gets to the league, you don't necessarily know what all he's going to be or become. So there's a lot more to it. So, I mean, Jerry Jones wanting to have more games, I get why, but I don't think two more regular season games is really what the league needs. It's kind of, it needs two more teams. That's really what it is, because that's 32 more games, guaranteed. You know, that's two more cities, two more markets that you can pull in. And like I was alluding to a little bit earlier when Kevin was talking about, we're not doing that. So we're not doing Facebook Live tonight, or are we? We can. So let's get that going. I mean, I'm right in the middle of making a point here, but that's okay. Yeah. So made me lose my train of thought. Oh yeah, so because two more teams, again, two more markets. The density, that's what I was going to talk about. The density, fan density. So the amount of people if you go to Omaha, let's say Omaha, Nebraska, you use the fan density in Omaha, Nebraska, and then the fan density in Chicago. Again, not too far from each other, pretty much the same parallel. But one is an NFL city in one of the top 5 markets in the country, and the other one is the top 200 market, and but yet the density for NFL fans is pretty similar. So you could literally go into any city, and it would be able to sustain NFL football because the density of fans in any given city is so high. And that's why NFL, and that's the thing, is like NFL is so popular as a sport. You know, they say that, you know, the ratings have fallen off because of this, that, or the other thing. And the thing is, if you go and look at the statistics of actual football, a lot of the people that say that they were going to stop watching, they didn't stop watching. They didn't stop consuming the NFL. They didn't maybe consume it as much, but they still consumed it. I mean, there's people that fantasy football, you know. So it's a bit of hyperbole for people to say that they quit the NFL. And they didn't. The numbers show that they didn't. So, but yet they want to insist. They insist that they quit the NFL. So. All right. Okay, so you got me up over there? Okay, so we are going to do Facebook Live here. So bear with me just a moment. All right. So I have got these messages here. I want to address these here. Jerry Jones is crazy. Why do people continue? Why do people continue to even talk about what he has to say? He's inconsistent. Well, the one thing that is consistent about Jerry Jones is he understands what his agenda is and what he's looking for. And bottom line, he's looking to make more money. What do we got here? I'm going to stay on NFL right now. I want to stay on NFL right now. All right. Let's stay on NFL right now. All right. I want to welcome everybody out there on Facebook Live to the show now. This is, as you can see, the 267th episode of the show. The overtime segment's a little bit shorter tonight. Thank you for hanging in there. To see and hear the whole show, or to hear the whole show, rather, head on over to your app store, be it Apple or Android or Google, and download Spreaker, the free Spreaker app. You can listen to the full 3-hour show, as well as all the podcast versions of the other show. We syndicate over there, so you can hear the whole show live. So we do, is it 3 weeks? 3 weeks in a row? Been doing the Facebook Live. And you can comment over here on Facebook Live. I do read them as the show goes on. So feel free to comment away. But the big thing is Jerry Jones is he's talking about 18 games because the 18 games is two more games that are meaningful, 2 more games that are at a higher ticket price, that are brings in more fans, that brings in more concessions, gets them closer to bring in more of the revenue that they're looking for. Again, it's kind of it's the beginning part of a negotiation that hasn't necessarily started yet. Players want more guaranteed money, and they've been pushing for it. A lot of players have gotten more guaranteed money. We're seeing record highs in guaranteed contracts that are being paid out. I believe 64 million guaranteed of the 5-year, $90-some million. Was it $80-some million contract of Odell Beckham Jr.? Was it 95? I don't have it up. I don't know. It wasn't on my screen. I had it marked, but yeah, it's a 5-year, 95 million. Yeah, see, I was right, 95. 5-year, $95 million, $65 million. Is supposed to be guaranteed. It's a $20 million average over the first 3 years. So, that's a good payday. I mean, and some people say, oh, he's been hurt, he's fragile, he just doesn't deserve it. How can you bring a guy in like that, he's a wideout, he doesn't have the ball enough to affect it? It's the same kind of argument you say for a closer. I mean, people argue, should a closer win the Cy Young? Should a closer be able to be, the league MVP? I mean, if they're the best and they do it better than anybody else, why not? Should we be able? I mean, if we're really looking at the best and value, I mean, why cut off If we know somebody's the best, why are we cutting? Why we want to sell them short? Why? Purposely sell them short. It doesn't make any sense. Jerry Jones is looking for a way to bring in more money to make. And his argument is, I'll bring just 2 more regular season games, and this is how I'm going to bring in more revenue to help pay for these guaranteed contracts. And by the way, you guys don't want the preseason games. I don't care for the preseason games. I'd rather have regular season games. They make me more money. They make you more money. So let's do that. Now, I don't think more regular season games is really going to help. Again, like I said, the statistic is yes, there are more instances of injuries in the preseason, and that's undeniable. However, those are usually people that aren't going to make the roster anyways. So that being said, 2 less preseason games would lead to less injuries, but still guys that aren't going to make the roster anyways. So adding on 2 regular season games, it means you are more likely to lose somebody that is meaningful, because those are only the guys on the 53 that are playing in those games. It doesn't seem like it makes sense to do that. I would rather see 2 more expansion teams move the league to 34 teams. The owners aren't particularly in favor with that because the revenue sharing would have to be split between 2 more people. Now, again, I think the math on that is high enough. If they're picking the right cities, will San Diego be one of them? Maybe. And they say, they're ready. Oakland was ready too. Maybe they are. Maybe you look at places like San Antonio. They feel that they can draw, and you can put it somewhere close enough to where you're going to draw maybe some people from Austin. Maybe San Antonio, you're drawing some people from Austin. Maybe that's what they're looking at. Maybe that's what they're thinking there. Maybe you look at Oklahoma City. I don't know. They seem to have a pretty die-hard fan base for basketball, and it's very, very college-like atmosphere, and that's not all that different from the Green Bay Packers. Just saying, you can look at other Midwest cities, because really, right there, if you go straight down the country, you have the Bears in Chicago, you have the Vikings in Minneapolis, then you got the Chiefs, and the Rams aren't there anymore. There's no team representing Iowa, Des Moines, even though the city seems to be big enough. Is it logistically? It's not gonna do a damn bit of difference for teams to travel. And you're gonna tell me that Nashville is gonna be that much of a bigger draw for NFL than Des Moines or Omaha? Come on, Kansas City. All right, so these cities will work, It's just a matter of time. Where do they want to put? I mean, we have Baltimore, and Baltimore has a team, and DC has a team. They're a short drive from each other. They're very close. There's Antoine. What's up, man? Thanks for joining in. And Anna, thanks for the like as well. You can't say that they're too close. They're necessarily too close. Adding 2 more teams overall is going to be a better pull for the league than it would be to adding 2 games. Adding 2 games is putting a lot more stress on your quarterback. Not only in a situation to perform, but more so in a situation he has to stay healthy for 2 more games. And that doesn't even take in consideration that they've expanded the playoffs. Which isn't a bad thing. I would rather see more teams make the playoffs because you make more money selling ads in the postseason than you do in the regular season. And expanding your playoffs has always been a positive move for any league that did it. NBA, Major League Baseball, hockey, it's always been a positive. So adding another game or two to the postseason isn't, by allowing more teams in, isn't killing it. It doesn't render the season meaningless. But if you also are adding in 2 more teams, you're adding 2 more markets that are a lot more vested in. So they could pull it. I mean, if Jacksonville still has a team, which they should. I mean, that's all they got there. And Jacksonville fans show up for the most part. But the NFL has, in large part, became a television sport. So we have to see where these teams move as far as how do you increase the interaction in the stadium. Because that's the thing is, if you can see 900 angles on a television at home or at a bar or wherever you go watch it, why are you going to pay $95 a seat to go sit and watch it and you're missing part of it, large parts of it? So, and ticket prices seem to keep going up. So, and especially now in this social media age, people want to share social media while they're there, but a lot of these stadiums just are not equipped infrastructurally to have that much availability of bandwidth for people to make phone calls, let alone share on Snapchat or Twitter or Instagram or whatever platform they want to share on. So there has to be some give and take. So the CPA still has a few more years before it's up, but we're gonna start seeing players starting to push more on the guarantees. They're going to push more for health care for ex-players. There's going to be a lot more push. And if you scroll down here, even on Facebook, you can see that there's we have a video up there, and I think it's over on YouTube as well. Of just this past year, the meetings that the NFLPA had, they want to start to push more for making sure that there's healthcare benefits after the game. You know, instead of vesting after 4 years, trying to push it for 3 years, or shrinking that vesting period to where the players are able to have healthcare after football, setting them up for some sort of a way to take care of them after they retire. So maybe that's kind of the NFL's. Maybe they could look at that as an angle. If you want people to play longer and endure injuries longer, then maybe they have some more peace of mind if they know they have health care afterwards to take care of the bumps and bruises and everything that comes with years of constant impact and hit on their body. You know, we could start with that. So I don't know. Again, I think the NFL owners are a lot closer to voting yes for 18 games than to voting for 2 new teams. But I think it's kind of come to a situation where the NFL, in order for them to grow, they're going to have to look at expansion teams. And with the amount of games, again, I don't think London is really a play as far as having a team. Logistically, it just doesn't work. Time difference are so different. And it makes sense to have games over there. Everybody kind of rotating through those games. It seems to be kind of a decent kind of shtick that they can go through, and it's material that'll work. However, Mexico City and Toronto, I think, are definite plays for the NFL. Mexico has a really good following as well as Toronto for the NFL. Good fan density there. They sell that Azteca Stadium out every time they've been there. Now that, I think, Mexico City, DF is up in the air. Toronto would be up in the air. If we're talking about international cities, still within North America, to be able to be a part of the NFL, that would make sense. But those are really the only two. The next closest would probably be, again, it's not even international, but Puerto Rico could sustain an NFL team if they had enough people living there. A lot of people after Maria left. Been actually quite a bit of shortages, and especially in professions like doctors and stuff like that. So there's a lot of people left. And you don't have power and water. That kind of deters people from staying places. They've worked tirelessly to kind of fix those problems and rebuild infrastructure there. Planning on going there in a few months for a vacation, so look forward to it. But really, I mean, there's plenty of cities, major cities or mid-market cities that NFL will fit in, and they could grow fan bases for those particular teams. I mean, look at how many years Houston went without a team, and that team up and left and went to Nashville. And how many years it took to get a team back there, Houston, one of the top 5 markets in the country, didn't have a team. It's kind of silly. I mean, look at L.A. Top market or second market, I guess depends on what day you look at census. It went without a team for how long? I mean, literally way too long, and now has 2 teams. So it's and I think Vegas was a great move. I think people really had shied away from it way too long, but it'll work out again. So when we look at the the new Levi Stadium for the 49ers, when we look at the new stadium up in Inglewood for the Rams, and they're going to lease out to the Chargers, and when we look at the whole deal with the Raiders moving to Vegas, one person that was very centered around all of that was Jerry Jones. So when Jerry Jones starts talking about 18 games, we're going to get rid of preseason games, we can be pretty sure we're going to get rid of preseason games. Whether it's going to move to 18 games, I don't know. The NFLPA is always looking for ways to get the players more money, but if they're guaranteeing more money, 2 preseason games, 2 more meaningful games, may not necessarily be a win or a victory for the NFLPA or the players, because they have 2 more meaningful games, which means 2 more games where they could be subject to an injury that could end their career. So that's 2 more games of meaningful hits. So it's not necessarily a win for them to play more games. And that's why the NFLPA has backed away and gave pushback on 18-game season in the NFL. Again, they have expanded the postseason. The regular season, we'll see. So, take a few other questions here. Brady and Belichick. What is their relationship like? I don't know what their relationship like. Obviously, they have a working relationship. They are able to coexist with one another. As far as the Alex Guerrero question, I mean, Belichick was on radio, I think the day after Brady walked away from WEEI. He was on a station, I don't know if it was WEEI or not, but gave probably one of the more thoughtful answers I've heard from him in quite some time. So, and he kind of, a lot of his answer was kind of what I was saying a little earlier. People seem to be up in arms. It's like, oh, why is Alex Guerrero there? Well, every team has special trainers. Some guys are guys that are there throughout the week. They come in the facility. Some of them they don't come in, and guys go to the trainer, after practices. Sometimes they're medical professionals. They'll seek out a chiropractor maybe, and are they a part of the official team staff? No. Some guys like that will come in to come into the facility. They're not a part of the staff, and some of those guys are there on game day. Some are there throughout the week. Again, there are guys that, literally just there on game day. I mean, obviously, there's a certain demand for different people and their profession and their services throughout the week, and sometimes it more heavily revolves around game day than the rest of the week. So, Alex Guerrero being there or being on the team playing or all that, it in and of itself, of someone that's in his position to be there, is not odd. It's not odd at all. It's not abnormal. I'm telling you, every team in the NFL has guys like that are in and out of the facilities on game day during the week. Sometimes they come to the facilities. Sometimes the players go to the professional. It just varies. It varies. So I understand to a point. Tom Brady is trying to say, I don't understand why you care about these things, but that very much in and of itself, because people do care about it, because Tom Brady has made it a point that his TB12 brand revolves around a lot of what Alex Guerrero provides to him, as not only as the trainer involved with it, but as a partner. So it's silly for him just to want to sidestep this and walk out on an interview, because people are asking, what's his and Belichick's relationship? It's say, hey, I've always known them to have a good working relationship, and not really any different than the relationship I've had with him. Not a bad relationship. So, I mean, just squash it. But, he gets so fickle over little stuff like this, People will say, oh, he's a jerk. Maybe he is. But sometimes, if you're in a situation, it's better you be a jerk than get yourself in a worse situation. Put your foot in your mouth, or you lie about something, Ask Urban Meyer. How did he feel? How did his lying where did it get him? Should Urban Meyer have been fired? I don't know. I don't think 3 games suspension was enough. I think he should have went into the Big Ten season. They gave him, And the thing is, what people don't understand is he's basically like he's barred from 3 games. He can't be at 3 games, but he's really like, he's not around to be practice and planning and stuff for like a week. They gave him a week vacation before the season starts. I mean, who doesn't want a week to decompress before you get back at it again? They did him a favor more than anything. And you sit here and pretend like I mean, people are like, oh, what are they going to do without him? Like, the guy's literally there for the rest of the time. Practices, planning, everything before all the other games. He's like, he got a week vacation. This wasn't really. He can't go to 3 games that are. Most people are saying, yeah, those are definitely wins. And he's and he gets a week away from being able to have interaction with the team. So damning. God, how could he accept that sort of a penalty? Did he run it up the chain? I mean, Gene Smith, after this is all said and done, I mean, people say that, I mean, he said that in the interview, ultimately this all falls back on him. But if he ran up the chain of command to Gene Smith, and Gene Smith didn't do what he needed to do, I mean, like I said, he's going to be the guy that's going to have to fall on the sword and to move on. And it kind of seems like that's what it is. Kept Urban in his spot, and that's kind of where the committee went with it. Is it wrong? I guess it's relative. Really wrong. It's relative. If you feel some kind of way about Gene Smith and how they handled it, maybe it is wrong. Should Urban Meyer have done more though? I mean, yes and no. I mean, yeah. I mean, obviously, morally, ethically, we would like to see anybody in a situation try to do more to help someone. Yeah. I mean, it's the crazy thing is about when we look at things in hindsight, everything's always 20/20 in hindsight. So we look at it in hindsight, and it's like, oh, he should have this, should have that, should have this. Oh, why did he do that? So obviously, no, I'm not giving him a pass. No, I'm not giving him a pass. He's obviously been in situations where bad things have happened, and he hasn't really taken heed for it. Should he go down? I mean, maybe he shouldn't. Maybe he's not the best person for. Maybe he's not the best person for to be this sort of mentor. I don't know. He still keeps getting top recruiting classes. He still has his position. I'm not giving him a pass. If he's knowledgeable of any of these things, I mean, obviously there's more to go with it than just he should be suspended or fired. I mean, if he's a party to of crimes that are being committed, then the legal system needs to pursue it that way. It's plain and simple, But But this goes back to, I mean, so many people talk about, the NCAA, all this. The NCAA is relatively powerless in a lot of situations. It's quasi-judicial. They're quasi-judicial, and they basically oversee events, largely overseeing events and the eligibility of players at those events. Yes, coaches, referees too, but mostly it revolves around the players. I mean, I think it's 97% of all the money that comes in, kind of basically, or 95%. Something like it. Most of the money that comes in goes right back into Division I sports to hold tournaments and championship games and stuff like that. I mean, we sit back and there's this much revenue. And listen, revenue really doesn't mean anything. I guess the best way to explain it is if your mortgage is $1,000 and your electric bill is $1,500 or $150, so $1,500 is what you're looking at, but you only make $800 a month, what does it matter how much you bring in? Because your liabilities are higher than what your revenue is. It's math. If you bring in $2 gajillion a year, but you spend $2 gajillion in a penny, you're insolvent. You're in the red. Doesn't matter if it's a penny or not, you're in the red. So the media seems to want to use these numbers, these revenue numbers, to beef up what agenda they want for a team or a school or the NCAA, and it works for that purpose. But at the end of the day, you can go over to the website, thechtonsports.com. Go over to our website. Just type in worth college football. I could repost it up too. So what are colleges worth? Something like that. Something to that effect. I wrote a couple years ago. And basically it's a breakdown of what is the revenue, what are their liabilities, and what actually profit do they have. And out of 100, was it 120 or 128 or 132 Division I college football, just talking about football, I think only 22 of them were profitable, and like 12 of them were profitable enough to be able to afford to pay just the football team $10 an hour for 20 hours a week if they were going to pay them. Like 12 schools. I mean, you don't understand, like most schools heavily rely on subsidies from the state. That's your taxpayer dollars to have their football program, to run their football program. That's the highest generating revenue sport in every school. So to get their football program, it needs tax dollars to survive. It says a lot. Now, a few schools, actually none of the private schools, were all public schools. No private schools in that article or on that list. Because private schools don't have to disclose the money. They don't have to. Now, this is, again, if we look at not only what is the revenue the schools are bringing in and what they're making, but also how much subsidies can you get. Because how much subsidies you can get means how much money boosters can give to the school. We sit here and we talk about, you can't unfairly give kids scholarship. I mean, is it fair that some schools can get more from boosters because they have more booster money than others? I mean, is that fair? I don't know. It's not up to me to decide. I mean, I'm not going to get into paying players. I'm not going to get into that. Yeah, again, it's math. It doesn't matter how much. Doesn't matter how much money the NCAA makes, as far as brings in from revenue, what they actually make profit side. Again, it doesn't. I mean, people sit here and talk about nonprofits and corporations. The difference between the big difference, right? That between the Red Cross, right, and Johnson & Johnson is one's tax exempt and the other isn't. They're both in the medical field. They're both trying to turn a profit from a sense that they need to be able to have money over what they spend to be able to grow. That's called profit. Nonprofits make profit. They just are tax exempt. That's the difference. One has to find creative ways to not have to pay the taxes or get, have their taxes reduced. The other ones just doesn't have to worry about it. They don't have to file for that sort of taxes. That's the big difference. Yes, 2 teams. I would add 32 games to a year instead of it. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So 60, yeah, adding 2 more regular season games. Yeah, so that's 64. No, my point is by adding 2 more teams, 16-game seasons, you also have your preseason games, but also, more importantly, you're expanding markets. So where a market density for one team, the market density for NFL is one thing, you grow that market and it becomes more dense when you have a team there. So if you give people a rooting interest in it, that's a more intimate rooting interest, hence a local team, then they consume more. Yeah. Well, the perfect example is college sports. Obviously people care enough about college sports that it's the second most watched sport in the fall and winter, right after the NFL. It is the second most watched sport. And again, most of these guys end up becoming, they're working at Enterprise or on the railroad or personal trainers or things other than the NFL. Yeah, some are lawyers. Yeah, I'm not trying to say that they have meaningless jobs after football. Why would you go there? That's not the point I was making. Moron. Why? I don't get why people go there. You really think that if you've ever listened to the show, and that if you can make a comment because you haven't, I encourage you to listen more. I'm not here to demean players, coaches, front office staff, owners, anything. Again, it's called the cold hard truth for a reason. I'm just going to talk about the truth of it, and that's it. Not here to gain anything from it. There's no driving point that I'm trying to make to somebody in an obscure way. I just literally trying to talk about the facts and help people understand the bigger picture of it. So no, that's not the point I'm making. But even that, I mean, you'll pay obscene amount of money to have season tickets in college. You'll tune in every weekend religiously to watch these players. But as soon as they leave that college team and they're playing in the CFL or the AFL or one of a dozen or so semi-professional leagues or amateur leagues or anything that's not called the NFL, You don't want to watch it. Yeah, your attitude on how worthy are they of your time and attention drops off dramatically. It does. So when they're in college and they don't get paid, you talk about them. They're he's such a great college player, and now that the best player on your team, he's playing in the CFL. Other than some random Facebook post or whatever, you don't know what the heck happened to that guy. Most people don't care. That's what the ratings, that's what the statistics say. You don't care about him once he leaves college unless he becomes good enough in the NFL. That's the fact of the matter. There's nothing wrong with. No. Anyways, that's going to wrap it up for the show tonight. Thank you all for tuning in, watching in. We'll have the show up on YouTube as well. So subscribe over on YouTube. Most of all, go download the Spreaker app and follow us on Spreaker. So we're this close in the deal that worked out to be on iHeartRadio as well. I like to put, I got to work on this. What side am I pointing at? Be able to put that iHeart logo up here too. So that way we can simulcast on iHeartRadio. I'd love to do that. So, but that does it for this week on the Cold Hard Truth on Sports. A lot more. We'll get more into college football next week. Obviously, this is a much bigger week that we're coming into. The first full week of major games. A lot of games I'm looking forward to watching. And, social media at the CHT on Sports, or me. I gotta get this down. Me at Matt Long Sports. Easy to find. But thank you guys for tuning in. I very much appreciate it. That's all I got for you tonight. I'm out.